Welcome to Beyond the Spot. I'm Melissa Thornley, and I am so excited because today we have with us Jean Batthany. Jean is Executive Vice President, Executive Creative Director at DDB. What do you think about Madonna as a role model?
She's a strong, independent woman who's a very good business person, and the longevity of her career is pretty amazing. I'm all about longevity these days.
Yes.
Especially in advertising.
Longevity, sustainability.
Yes. I'm talking about role models. Cindy Gallup. Do you know Cindy?
Oh, I don't know Cindy.
So Cindy, she used to be the president of BBH. She's talk about reinvention. She's reinvented herself. She has this platform of make love, not porn. And she's trying to do real world love making on camera. Real couples would submit it, and with a pay system. So people would have, growing up, would have a different interpretation of what sex is like. She's an older woman, gorgeous, and she dates younger men. And she said all these men that she was being involved with had this distorted view of what sex was like growing, because they grew up with porn. And so she had this eureka moment of, I'm going to change the way porn is perceived and created.
I love that.
Yeah, and you know, she is a phenomenal speaker. She just can move a room, and she's all about say what you think. Mm-hmm. Huge advocate for changing the ratio. She really just wants to blow up the whole advertising world and advertising model, because it just doesn't work in her mind. There's a lot of broken things about it as far as how we're paid, how we work all the time, how there's that struggle for work-life balance, you know.
It's not working on many levels. I mean,
Yeah.
and just in our world is one of them. When I was putting together the list for the 50/50 initiative in
Right.
Chicago, I went through, so many of them were freelance or at different agencies. I didn't even think about there being any kind of inequity in advertising as far as men and women go until like 4 or 5 years ago.
It was that time a few years ago where all of a sudden it was in the spotlight. And I think women work differently than men in the sense that they put their heads down, they work really hard, and they're not big self-promoters. And it's a gross generalization, but that's what I did, right? And so we work and we do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, everyone's passing by and there's leadership positions and it's a sea of white men. And so shining a light on it where all of a sudden you go, why is it like this? The same number of women, if not more women, come out of ad schools and start in the business. 50-50, very close. And then you get to the top, 3%. That was why, the motivator, because only 3% of women held those creative leadership positions. You know, now I think it's 11%. So there's progress, or the data's changed. There's definitely feels like there's a movement. When I saw the 3% conference first promoted, I was like, this sounds really interesting. Really powerful, really smart, really passionate women. I can reach out to so many of these women if I need advice, if I need a suggestion for an opportunity.
I wonder sometimes how to navigate it without being separatist or without getting angry, because I consider myself a really positive person, and I sometimes get really angry about it.
Yeah, I think a little anger is good. I think it's because I think you need what's going to motivate you. Don't come off as irrational and it's not fair and what are we doing? It's like they're really smart business reasons why it's important for us to have gender equality in this industry. Women control 80 to 85% of purchase decisions, depending on what products you're talking about. But over 90% of women feel alienated by a lot of advertising communications. So imagine if we weren't alienating women with hypersexual or overt dumb guy humor, how much more we could sell.
So I suppose when you're speaking from a truth, like it just inherently communicates differently.
I think we look for truths a lot. And so it can be whether it's comedy or whether it's emotion or whether it's fabulous and visual, but it's like there's a truth, a nugget to that story.
Was there ever like a tug between being a mom and your career?
Every single day.
Well, but when you were making choices, did you approach those choices differently, do you think?
I love what I do, because I do. This industry, it's like a disease for me. Like I can't not do it. It's like a drug. Yeah. I'm an addict. I don't think you can tell anybody how you're going to feel when you have this little baby. and you have this little baby, and you're holding this little baby, and you don't want to give it to anybody else to take care of. And then it's that, how do I go back to that and leave this? And how do I do both? And it's very hard to see at that time that it's possible. And I think there's a huge opportunity to think about how moms and dads come back to work, not just in advertising, in a lot of fields. If we allow men the time to take their leaves, right? Give men the paternity leave that they should have, so women feel like they can leave as well. And so we all need to have the leave and take it and co-parent from the beginning.
Right, so it's not another notch against you,
Right.
almost.
This antiquated vision of it's just the mother's responsibility and she can't possibly do the work that she once did because, you know, we need her here all weekend, we need her here all night long, and then you don't tuck your babies in and you start to feel like crap. And you know, I can remember we were pitching somebody, and it was my daughter's birthday, and it was a weekend, and like I went into my office and I just had to have a good cry, and I'm not a public crier, but I was like, this sucks so badly, and all I want to do is be home, and no one's going to remember if I was here or not tomorrow or in a week, but she'll remember that I wasn't there. And I've gotten much, much better at, I can't do it, I can't be there. I've done it with clients too. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a conference call at 6. I go, I really can't. I have to go home. I have an event with my daughter or my daughters or family, and catch me up on Tuesday. And I feel that when you're honest and people respect you, then you can do that. But if you don't ask and you just carry it around, it eats away.
Yeah, it's about the asking. It's like the power of the ask.
I think the power of the ask is huge because it's worked for me quite a few times.
So how did you learn how to ask?
I don't know where it came from. I think I've never been a shy person, and I guess I never thought not to ask.
Who were your role models growing up when you were a little kid?
My parents were really interesting characters, and my dad had his own business. He's a doctor, and my mom was his nurse, and they had a family practice. My dad was never a good person at working for the man. It was that you can be whatever you want to be. If you want it, go for it. So that was how they raised us, and so we all kind of followed our own paths. I had this hippy-dippy idea that I was going to be a sign painter. I loved typography, and we were researching schools. My mom was really great about working with all of us, all 5 of us. It was like, just find your path. Once I discovered what graphic design was, that's what I wanted to do. I ended up going to FIT, and I studied in their advertising design program, and I was hell-bent on not the advertising part, but the design. I had it in my head that advertising was selling your soul, and design was this pure art form, and that's what I wanted to do. And I had a teacher in my senior year. He's like, you should be in advertising. Yeah, I think you should do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. Graduate, decide I'm going to run my business out of my apartment, my little apartment in Queens. This was my big design business. And I get a call from him, and he's like, hey, I need a freelance assistant art director. You free for a couple weeks? I'm like, yeah, this little design business isn't going so good. Let me do that. So I freelanced with him for a few weeks, and he's like, I want you full time. I want you to be my assistant art director full time. He goes, take the job, give it 6 months. If you don't love it in 6 months, you walk away. No hard feelings. No hard feelings at all. I said, I could do that. I could do 6 months. I'm like, what, 22 years old? And 6 months later, he resigned and went to J. Walter Thompson, and I stayed for 5 years. It was such a different world than I expected, and I think that ultimately what kept me was graphic design is so solitary. Mm-hmm. So you have a problem and you have to solve it, and you could spend 300 hours in your head solving it. Advertising is so collaborative, and ultimately, yes, I love solving problems, but I love the people, and I love the collaboration, and the fact that you would work with different writers and be following different creative leaders, and the account, and the planning, and the strategy, and the artists involved, the photographers, and the illustrators, and the directors, and the editors, and the musicians. I was like, oh, every day was different, and it continues to be that to this day. It's like, I just love going to work every day.
What are enemies to creativity?
Committee. Having lots of opinions, lots of chefs, and box checking. Really not good. Not good at all. I think you have to be provocative, and there's a lot of different ways to be provocative, right? It doesn't have to be super sexual or super edgy, but it's just an idea that provokes a question and makes you rethink something.
I'm going to go to the questions.
Okay.
The 3 questions.
Okay.
So the first question is, where are you from?
I am from New York. I'm from an Irish Catholic, little Hungarian, crazy big family. I think I'm from good people who want to make the world a better place.
Where are you going?
I'm not going anywhere yet. I am sticking around. We talked about longevity. It's like, you know what? I feel like I'm sticking around for a while. That opportunity to mentor, to sponsor, you know, to make a difference, and to still be doing good work.
What keeps you going?
What keeps me going is the fact that I'm addicted to great ideas and to problem solving and to people. I'm also fueled by the idea of change and progress. It feels like almost like this third wave of this feminist movement.
You are so inspiring.
Oh.
Thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
This is great.
Thank you.
Great.